Okay. What I'm doing today is I'm taking apart my #1 computer. This one stopped working 4 or 5 months ago. I believe what happened is that the DDR4 RAM got so hot that it caused some of the capacitors next to them to rupture, thereby causing the RAM to fail. And then we had the line also go out, so a couple of issues. I've since gotten a new motherboard, but haven't had the time to put it together yet. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart this computer and we're going to try the new motherboard and we'll see if we can get it to boot. Really not a lot to see here. You're just going to see me taking out all these graphics cards, taking out the coolers, the radiator, and eventually the motherboard. So yeah, and then I'll probably fast forward to most of this so it's not so boring for you. I call this my #1 computer because at the time it was one of the fastest, at least that I had built. It's an i7 10 core 20 hyperthread. Yeah, there's a lot more out now. The i9s are out, but I really not impressed with i9. It's only 4 PCI lanes more than this one, and really doesn't do much for the computer. But I guess if you want 4 more lanes, that's fine. My own opinion, of course. So, like I said, if you want to just fast forward to most of this, I'm just going to be taking this thing apart, and we'll see what it looks like. Yes, it is sitting on my pool table, but I got a firm foam insert covering the inside of this thing. I've got my rubber mat, and we'll go from there. So, I'm going to start taking this bad boy apart and see what we can do.
Lonely man.
Okay, now what you can see me do is remove the last 3 graphics cards from the computer. As I remove them, I start noticing there's sort of an oily substance on the bottom of the graphics card as well as the motherboard. And I talked to one of my friends who helps me sometimes, and he said that the thermal pads, as they heat up, emit a gas, and those gases, of course, are expressed out of the card, and they accumulate on the surfaces, and that's what we're looking at. At first, I thought maybe it was a leakage from the radiator tubing, but he explained to me that that would have a different appearance when looking at these. So I agree with him that after examining it, it was more of an oily substance that I'm seeing, so it really wasn't anything to be concerned about. It's going to be normal. So if you see that on your motherboard and you have the hybrids, or even if you just have the normal graphics cards, don't panic. It's perfectly normal. So you probably wonder what it looks like on the inside. It's a jumble mess. So the next thing is to remove cooler, unplug all of these, and then take the motherboard out. So. Okay, now what I'm showing here is a little triangle that's in the upper corner. and it matches with the triangle that is on the motherboard. You gotta make sure you align those when you put the chip in there. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see me do this. There's a little protective covering over the socket. I will open this thing up, put the CPU chip in there. As I close down those latches, the plastic will fall off. I'm well aware that I'm blocking the CPU socket. Also going to show you to move the plastic over the ACES and over the top of the board where it talks about what kind of board it is. The motherboard is kind of weird in that the RAM only at the top of the motherboard actually has a pin that you can push down to suit your RAM. The other part close to the GPU is rigid, so you just got to push it straight down till you hear it click. And the next thing I'm going to show you is putting in the standoffs for the CPU. Unfortunately, what you can't see is there's a supplementary power supply for the CPU just above the CPU socket. I'm attempting to connect those at this moment. Unfortunately, it's a bad angle, so you can't actually see it. I'm trying out this stuff. Someone said it's really good, so I'm going to give it a try. Of course, the arguments are, how much do you put? Someone says a P. Some like X's. I like a little X with dots, but I know people are going to say you should get a credit card or something to smooth it out. You know, just kind of whatever floats your boat.
Intoxicated by the lights, you expect me to believe
So next thing you see me do is just put on the CPU cooler. Between the RAM on the closest to the I/O shield and the CPU, there is a 6-pin right there that I'll have to connect. That is accessory power PCI slots. You'll see me here connect that now.
So, power connectors, everything seems to be connected, except for the RAM. I need to put the RAM coolers on. But I also am going to put in a graphics card here to see if I can boot this thing, and then we'll go from there. So, be back in a second. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm installing the RAM coolers, which really tight because there's not a lot of room in this case to begin with. Let's see if they work or not. A lot of cables. We'll see what gets in the way and what doesn't. Next thing is to fit a GPU. I removed the other side of this thing, so I just throw it over here. Installed GPU. This may not fit, so I may have to pull this up. And we see what happens. So let's grab.
Next thing to do is connect the power supply. This requires 2 separate 8-pins. You can't use an 8-pin and then use a 6-pin with another 6-pin. You have to have their own 8 pins in order to power the GPUs. At this point, I was able to get into BIOS and I set the XMP to profile 1. Unfortunately, I rebooted the Windows. It didn't like that because it was trying to take the RAM to 3.47 gigahertz, which was unstable. So I ended up having to reboot and go back and lower it manually to 3.2 gigahertz, and it was stable at that point. I mean, you're seeing the crashes because it just did not like that 3.47 that XMP1 wanted to impose upon the system. So, and basically you're just seeing me changing the RAM speed down to what RAM is rated for, and it took that without any difficulties.
Okay, what have you missed? Well, it's been a day and I've been running this thing now pretty much non-stop. I've installed a lot of software. Now it is time to put the graphics cards back inside. So, first thing is just to get them into the box, and then we will worry about everything else here. Alright, we're going to give this a shot and see if it works. Should prove interesting at least. Lots and lots of cables. It's monstrosity, to say the least.
Alright, and what you can see here is it cycles through each one of the GPUs as it gets reacquainted, and we will boot into Windows and immediately launch into my test programs, which you will see here in a minute. You'll see all the CPU cores start to light up red. I launched the fan control, and we're up and running, and that's it. So thanks for watching, and I know this isn't as professional as some other people, but I really am more of a cruncher than I am a YouTuber, so hope you enjoyed it.